and it could go either way.
So we talked just recently on the podcast. What were they? Is 22-5 the number with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler?
At one point, it was like 16-2. It was dominant, and it was like, what they would point to more is like it was like top 5 offense, top 5 defense. It was like, subsection that screams contender from a rating standpoint, but it was an easy schedule. It was a very easy schedule, and you had a full throttle Jimmy Butler. Steph had one of his like nuclear 10-game stretches. I don't think you could just extrapolate that, or however you say it, out to 82 games and be like, that's the Warriors you're going to get, because they were in complete sprint mode. They played a lot of tanking teams. It was a soft part of the schedule. The Jimmy Butler vibes were completely pumped up, but they did look good, and Jimmy looked good with them.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, in your view, you've covered the Warriors at the very top and at the very bottom. How legitimate is this trio? And, as you look at the Western Conference and you look at some teams that have really powered up this offseason, including the team that they barely beat in the first round, Houston, still a great win, but is this something is that a trio that is legitimate? They say the trio, Draymond's role is as a table setter and a defender. It's not like it's a classic big three, but nonetheless, there was a reason why that record was so good when those guys played together.
They fit really well. You saw that right away. It was like Jimmy Butler suddenly getting to the line. You look pre-Butler, they were one of the worst free throw, attempt and, percentage teams in the league. Post-Butler, they were one of the best. It was, he did a lot of like the IQ stuff. Kurt kept calling him Iguodala, with the chaperone stuff he likes to say that he does out there. So like the fit was seamless. Their motivation level was high, and I would say like if you line them up completely healthy in a series with almost anybody in the West, I wouldn't necessarily include the Thunder in this. Like they're extremely threatening and dangerous, and they could have won that Minnesota series. They did beat a very good Rockets team, and I do think they're going to have somewhat of an upgraded supporting cast next year. So again, I do think fully healthy, they're threatening, but like how do they get to April completely intact, healthy, fresh, in a good seed, not having to go through the play-in, and do that all while having to rest, their guys kind of selectively, having to potentially deal with, a Jonathan Kuminga drama situation, because I really do think Kuminga is, and I know there's belief behind the scenes, even from Steve Kerr, that Kuminga would really matter in a regular season rotation, but how do they get him into a content, happy to be here type mindset for the regular season? Because if they don't have that, then, they're a hamstring tweak away, an ankle sprain away from having to chase uphill. And I do think that's part of why they faded in the playoffs, is because they were chasing uphill.
Well, their playoffs really started like the last 2 weeks of the season because there was such a fight and scramble for the seeds.
I say when Butler arrived, they started.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Because they were in a hole. They were like 11th when he got there.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, I'll put it this way. Bontemps is sort of famous for tiering the teams. They're somewhere in that tier between 4 to 10. We can debate whether it's because, I think most people, and you can certainly overrule this, but most people think Oklahoma City is in a spot by itself, and then Denver is in a second tier. Some people will include Houston in that. Some people will include the Clippers. But even if you don't, either way, like between 4 and 10, there's a lot of liquidity there. And the Warriors are in that, but they have 2 players who have the capability to flip a playoff series by themselves. So if you're the Warriors, my guess is you're looking at 2 things this year. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. One, as you said, you get to the playoffs with your 2 guys healthy and not worn out, so that you get into a playoff series and you have those 2 guys you think can flip it. Secondly, you do what they did last year, which was you lay around and wait to see if you can make a big trade. They have their draft picks going forward. We know that they're trying to get Kuminga in a contract he can be traded out of. They have some other pieces. They have a bunch of medium-sized contracts on their team that they can move in and out of deals. They're not going to be in the second apron. They're not going to give Kuminga the max because they're not going to be in the second apron. So they will be able to aggregate. Right? Am I wrong? I mean, they're not going to be.
Part of the potential Al Horford addition would, it would be using a taxpayer mid-level that would second apron cap them. It's part of the reason they're being very careful, and you've seen them make zero moves, because the moment they second apron cap themselves, they give a team like Utah, a team like Brooklyn, who have stayed out of the Kuminga sweepstakes, and I'm not reporting any interest. The Warriors certainly believe Brooklyn doesn't have interest, but the moment you give them a dollar amount to go, you can go over this dollar amount.
Yeah, that they can't match.
Yeah, you can either steal them away or force the Warriors to have to send off a piece with a pick, potentially to you. You know what I mean? So they've been that's why they're sitting here with 9 players, and it's been 9 players.
And that's one of the reasons why Al Horford's sitting around, is that Al Horford, there's various reasons. I mean, look, if Kuminga ends up elsewhere, Al Horford might be able to get more money than the taxpayer mid-level. But part of the reason why is what you just described, is there's various reasons why it makes sense to sign later.
It's a leverage play, but go ahead.
So but the Warriors are hunting for a potential big move as well. That's another thing that will be the case, and we'll watch during the season. And they hunted last summer, they hunted in the fall, and they couldn't pull off some things or whatever. But come February, they had Jimmy Butler, so I suspect, will be doing the same sort of thing. They've got Steph Curry. They want to maximize him. They've got their draft picks. If they see something that they think can be a big swing, I think they will be in the market for it.
Yeah, their draft picks are interesting because they've been protective of them. And
post Steph, right?
Yes.
You got to be careful of that.
But it's like a two-sided coin, where they're probably overly protective, maybe, of the future, some people would say. But also, if they do decide to just flip one unprotected 29 pick or something like that, the league's going to be thirsting for it, because that's a post-Steph Curry.
That's true.
Warriors pick. It's valuable. It's much more valuable than a 29 Spurs pick, or name your team with an in his
it's
prime.
one of the reasons why people have been talking about what Portland has. One of the reasons people are high on Portland is that Portland has Milwaukee's draft, either the pick or the swap, in 28, 29, and 30. Maybe Giannis is still there. Maybe Giannis is gone. Maybe Giannis is diminishing. You're looking past the current star timeline. It's one of the reasons why the Lakers have been careful about giving away their picks in the late 20s and early 30s, because it's post LeBron, that is it. You're talking about access to something that's pretty valuable there.
It's also why when they made the Butler trade, they wanted to trade this, past drafts pick, because they didn't want to be handcuffed at all by sending a future pick. They also didn't love the mid to late lottery and beyond. There's definitely a lot of asset management going on behind the scenes with this entire situation, including they've been part of the reason that a sign and trade hasn't got done for Kuminga. There's been, particularly the Kings and Suns, I would say, have been the most aggressive, is because the Warriors have been pretty steadfast in their requirement of at least a first round pick. They also want a young player, and they don't want to take on bad contracts. And that's what's really, held a lot of this stuff up, because it's not only does the team have to want to sign Jonathan Kuminga, convince Jonathan Kuminga to take this dollar amount, and he has high ambitions for his next contract, but also they then have to call the Warriors and basically make, a pretty decent value trade where you're giving up a pick and a young player, that type of stuff. That's why so much of this stuff is just in gridlock. Yeah.
Now, I want to say that Steph Curry, he turned 36 last year?
He will turn 38. He turned 37 in April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Last year, let me tell you what his stats were. Last year.
Yeah.
He averaged 25 points a game. First time he played 70 games. It's pretty good. Last 2 years, he's played 74 and 70. Averaged 25 points. 45% overall, 40% from three. You can pretty much write that down. 93% at the line, which was his second best free throw season of his career. Anyway, still averaged 6 assists, still playing at a very high level.
And still doing insane stuff to defenses. It's those numbers, and it is like the defensive attention and gravity that he creates, and everything their offense is based out of. Like, to see him, I mean, you've been there, but like to see him in the arena with the way like defenses just morph and like double team and, you know, chop block away from the ball and all that. Yeah.
In all honesty, this will sound trite. I can't believe his pregame routine.
Yeah.
That he's still, you know, when you're at a game and it's March, February, in other words, you're not really getting playoff ready just yet, and he's still doing this incredible pregame. I mean, I understand why he does it. It's what he does, but like, I mean, if you don't come early to a Warriors game to watch him do a pregame routine, you're not getting your value of your ticket.